Yeah, so UFC Austin last night. We were there, and quite the event. Really exciting show to have gone to. 9 knockouts. I think 6 of them were in the first round. It's a historic an all-time record. Joe Rogan is in the stands for the first time in 20 years. Couple breakout stars. But I'm going to tell you guys what we saw in person that you wouldn't have seen on television, because there's a bunch of really notable stuff. And we'll go from there. And then I'll talk about the fights. I'll talk about specifically who's going to, what the big impacts are of the outcomes of the fights in specific divisions, etc. But listen, here's one thing that I'll tell you right now. The main thing, in my opinion, that you see and feel when you're there, that you do not see and feel watching on television, is the level of magnetism that certain fighters have as it relates to their ability to connect with the crowd, certain guys are so gifted at that. It's absolutely unreal. I'm talking about Kevin Holland specifically. I don't know how it translates onto television, but this is the second time I've seen him fight in person. I saw him at 272 and here. And there's something about his energy that doesn't even make sense. I'm always watching these fighters. I'm always watching these fighters and just trying to kind of understand them as people, but specifically as it relates to, them as a fighter. And I have a couple really interesting things that I pulled last night about Holland, about Buckley especially. But Holland, it doesn't make sense. He's not nervous at all. He's not nervous at all. He goes in there, that guy's entrance, he just has that thing. He has that it. And I mean, he really has it. He's a fucking superstar. Kevin Holland is a star. Okay. If it maybe would have been a fluke thing at 272, the way that the crowd responded to him, but now I've seen him twice. He's special, dude. And I don't at home, you can't really, you can't really see which fighters can do that, because it's the same formula when you're watching on television. Guy comes out, walks down the thing, camera follows him, same thing. The crowd may sound a little bit more loud than, another fighter's, during the entrance or whatever, but it's different when you're there, because certain people, the crowd goes crazy. And it's not just because the guy's a big name. It's certain guys have this ability to connect with the entire crowd. And Kevin Holland he's the best at it I've ever seen so far. And apparently he chased down a robber the day before in Austin. Some guy, some kind of thief had just robbed someone and was running down the street, and Holland and his team, they were running. And so it was well, if we're going to be running anyway, may as well go catch a thief. And they did. One of the biggest regrets that I have in my entire life, it's, weird things that, can irk you forever. But I have one about an identical, well, I don't know about identical, very similar situation to the Kevin Holland one that happened to him with the thief, except I didn't act fast enough to respond to it, where basically I was walking to my office in San Diego long time ago. This has got to be 2006 or something like that. But I'm walking to my office, and I was in La Jolla, and this dude is running in my direction, on the other side of the street. And there's a woman screaming at him, screaming at the top of her lungs. And I put together, I was he just purse snatched her. Right. And from the moment that I realized what was happening to, he ended up getting into a car that was waiting, kind of parallel to me. And then they drove off. But if I would have acted quickly, I would have gotten to him before he got to the car. And I didn't. It was I registered what was happening. I'm whoa, he's purse snatching her. And I was like, I'm in like a suit. It's around my work. So it was kind of like, also, do I want to get into a violent altercation? Even to stop a purse snatcher, just in that split second, just that second of hesitation where I didn't act. Like, it still bothers me, man. You know? Like, there was a fucking purse snatcher who was right there, you know? I mean, I would have had to run about like maybe 25 yards. But I would have got there. And I didn't do it. So I'm telling you, that thinking about it now still irks me. It's fucking, a long time ago. But anyway, so good for Kevin Holland. But he's a star, great fight. And then I think the biggest breakout star last night, another person that I would imagine this actually probably did translate on television is Natalia Silva. Dude, she is nasty, man. She is nasty. She's so good. Like, her stand-up is insane. I was talking to Anthony's coach, Danny, his boxing coach. So we hung out with them last night and on Thursday. And I was texting back and forth with Danny during the fights. And when Natalia was fighting, I texted him, I'm like, I think that she could throw all of these kicks identical to how she's doing now if she was riding a skateboard. Like, it's just effortless, Like, just completely effortless. And she's pretty, Like, she's got a great, exciting style. She's a star. She's a star. And 125 is light, man. There's Valentina's cleared that division out. So I'm bullish on her career. I really am. She's nasty, man. Anyway. But Josh Emmett versus Calvin Kattar, that fight was incredibly close. Really, really, really tough to judge. If I was going to guess, right after the fights ended, I said that I thought that Josh Emmett probably won by split decision or would win by split decision. But it could have gone either way. No one would have been mad, But Buckley, let me tell you guys something about him, right? So Buckley's crazy, right? So just as a pretext, I don't know anything about Buckley. Like, I didn't know anything about him before this. Like, I just knew, highlight knockout. I've seen him fight, but I don't know anything about him outside of the octagon. No stories whatsoever. And, well, I'm taking that back. Outside of the video that I saw of him approaching Darren Till and being like, come on, man, let's get after it. So that I saw that interaction, obviously. But he put on a hell of a show. Fought a really tough guy and really made him pay. But when he was doing his post-fight speech or interview, I saw something in him that I was so confident about my read on that, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but he's dangerous. And I don't mean that like I would say that about any pro fighter, but like, dude, that guy's dangerous. Like, Buckley's legitimately dangerous. And again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm not saying it as a compliment. Like, I'm saying what I actually said at the end of the fight when he was doing his interviews, I was like, to Melissa, who was with us, and Gabrielle, I was like, if my sister was engaged to that guy, I would be very concerned about that. I would be very concerned about that. Because he is a snapper, and he looks like he has an absolutely volcanic temper. And he's got that look in his eyes, dude. Like, the reason he's a really great fighter is the same reason that he's legitimately dangerous in other situations. And again, I'm not trying to sound disrespectful. This is just, I'm really good at this. You know, like I'm really good at getting reads on people, and I am extraordinarily confident on that read. So, I don't know, be interesting to see if anything ever comes out in the, you know, in the media. Like he's a guy, again, like I mean, this is kind of a weird conversation because I don't want him to see this and think that like I'm talking shit, because I'm not. But like, if some story comes out and he beat a guy half to death and he's facing charges, or, you know, stab somebody or something, that like that would not surprise me in the least. He would be the very first person that I would pick and be like, yep, if I had to guess who was going to have an incident like that, you know, in the future, he'd be my first pick out of everyone in the UFC. Like, he's a dangerous guy. Like a really dangerous guy. But so anyway, I didn't know anything about him aside from the Till thing. And I said that to, probably shouldn't say this, but like, whatever. We're hanging out with a bunch of UFC people, right? After the fights. And I said that about Buckley, where I was like, man, I would be seriously concerned if a female that I cared about was in a romantic relationship with him. He's fucking dangerous, you know? And they told me that like the camp that he was in, they refuse to work with him now. Like, they're like, in that camp, apparently, like if a person's a UFC fighter, they want them all. And they axed him apparently. And, you know, like we didn't get into any details there, but like, he had some kind of thing with the gym, which again, does not surprise me at all. He's like a hyper intense, like I would imagine it's extremely challenging for him to connect with people because he'll make everyone feel uncomfortable because he's like, you know, he's a guy that you can feel is two wrong words from strangling you to death all the time. His base setting is strangle you or kick your teeth in. Anyway, I don't even know, like, I don't, you know, if he saw this, I don't know if I could predict how he would even hear this. Like, he might hear that and just be like, yeah, that's right, I am dangerous. Or he might be like, is this motherfucker crazy? Did he just accuse me of things that I may do in the future? But I'm pretty confident in that read, man. Pretty confident in that read. He scares the shit out of me, man. He really does. He's a scary fucking guy. And I hang out with a lot of really tough guys. He makes me nervous. He would make me very nervous to be around. But anyway, so the Josh Emmett fight, Emmett and Cater, that was a fantastic fight. And now Josh Emmett is in a position where if he wins probably one, I don't know who they're going to put him against, maybe Yair Rodriguez. But if he wins another one, let's say Volkanovski beats Holloway, right? I think that Josh Emmett would be positioned very well to get the next title shot at him after that. And that is an interesting fight, man. Josh Emmett is fantastic at closing distance, you know, at lightning speed. Like he doesn't throw a lot of really, like he doesn't have like a slick, you know, clean jab. He doesn't throw clean, straight punches. That's just not his game. He throws, you know, absolutely nuclear overhand punches, right? Like he comes in and there's so much heat behind him that like you have to respect the danger that he, you know, poses all the time. So it's hard for people to pick a spot. You know, it's hard. Like that's what I saw last night watching Cater try to fight him is like, you know, he wants to try to be surgical with when he lets go and what he hits him with. But he was respecting Josh's power, you know, because he poses such tremendous danger all the time that it made Cater slow to pull the trigger in the early round, at least in the early rounds. And that's probably why Josh Emmett won the fight. But Josh Emmett, speaking of reading people, so Josh Emmett, it's like if hard work was a human, it's Josh Emmett. You know? Like there's, again, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, there's nothing marketable about him. Like there's nothing marketable about him at all. Outside of that he's a fantastic fucking fighter. But I mean, just like in general, you know, like there are just certain guys where that side of the business is just not their shit, man. You know? He's not like unlikable or anything like that. Not at all. I think he's really fucking cool. And his entrance music was great. Interesting, actually, what his entrance music was. But like, but just not like what I was talking about with Kevin Holland. Just not that, you know? Like Kevin Holland he's a fucking pharaoh, you know? Like, I don't know how else to describe him. Like he's like a pharaoh, like an Egyptian pharaoh. It's a really weird metaphor, but that's the level of engagement that he commands when he's, you know, walking into the octagon, before, after. Like he's the fucking man, dude. He's the fucking guy. And he's huge. He's huge. You know, I've spent a lot of time around fighters, and like I've said this a million times, but like I'm always surprised by how much bigger they are versus what you expect, you know? Because like you hear a guy cut 30 pounds before his, you know, fight week, and that kind of goes in one ear, and you're like, all right. And so you're thinking about that person at a certain weight. Like, you know, I weigh 185 ballpark. And so if someone fights at 170, I'm like, oh yeah, guy's probably my size. Bro, Kevin Holland is fucking enormous. He's fucking enormous. He's huge. He's fucking huge, man. But he is nasty. That guy is a superstar. Real talk, superstar. He's a superstar. If he can win. He just has he has a gap in his game. But if he can shore that up, dude, which is just like takedown defense wrestling. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he has really nasty striking. He just has trouble with the takedowns. But yeah, but like Josh Emmett, there's just nothing marketable about him, you know? Like there's just nothing marketable about him. But he can fight his ass off, and you know, if him and Volkanovski ended up squaring off for the belt, I think Dana would be not super stoked about that. Because he'll be like, oh, cool. Like we already have a champion that doesn't drive, you know, pay-per-views. And Volkanovski, I don't really even understand why that is. Because like he's got a great personality. He's really good. He's won fucking 100 straight fights. But he just doesn't seem to be a needle pusher. But him versus Josh Emmett would, you know, it's like, the only way that would happen is if there just aren't any other comers, you know, because like he really has cleared out the division. Anyway, but that's probably enough. So seriously, if you guys like the content, subscribe and ring the bell so that you'll know next time I upload, because I upload a lot. I need to get some sleep though, because I was up really late last night hanging out with Anthony and the UFC crew, and we had a great time, man. We had a great time. They're like, Anthony's so fucking cool, man. I'm just going to say that. Like, people do TV, you know, people do their podcasts, whatever. But I want to tell you guys, like, in real life, Anthony is a fucking stud, man. He's like a really, really good dude. Everyone around there loves him, man. And he brought us around, you know, like he like, you know, pulled us in. We hung out with the whole fucking UFC ESPN crew last night. It was a really good time. But he's good people, dude. So you should definitely be rooting for him when he fights Magomed Ankalaev, which I think is a very winnable fight. I think the betting line on that fight is ludicrous. They got him at like a plus, I think it's like plus 400. Dude, Magomed's never fought anyone even remotely as good as Anthony Smith. That's like that those odds make no sense to me. I mean, I'm being totally serious. It's like, oh, this guy's basically undefeated and he's fighting Anthony Smith, who has losses. You're all, yeah, his losses were to who? Glover Teixeira, he had 2 broken hands going into the fight. John Jones, it's fucking John Jones. You know, a really kind of tight-ish decision against Ratchik. But then he's rattled off 3 straight first-round stoppages in his last 3 fights. 3 straight. Magomed, it's like, yeah, he's won all these in a row, but like, who's he beat? I mean, he beat Thiago Santos, but like, Thiago Santos reconstructed knee Thiago Santos. But he just, I don't know, man. To me, Magomed looks very beatable, dude. He's got, I mean, maybe I'm biased because Anthony's fighting him, but like, I don't know. I watch him and he seems very, he looks like he wants to really be able to like pick his shots. Like he wants to hang back and then kind of decide when the action, you know, is going to start. And I think if someone puts pressure on him and doesn't allow him to do that, you know, doesn't let him kind of sit back and set up, I think he'll be in trouble. He got touched. Like he got touched in a couple of his fights. Like this idea that he's like this untouchable, you know, huge guy on the come up is, I mean, we'll find out. Anthony is legitimately twice as good as anybody that he's fought. Aside from Santos. Anyway, yeah. That's what I got. Love you guys. Peace.